Isabella, a 24-year-old waitress, serves wine in the city's most exclusive restaurant. She wears the only earrings she owns, an inheritance from her grandmother. When Carmen Vázquez, the richest woman in New York City, sees those earrings, her world collapses. The glass slips from her hands and shatters on the floor. Those earrings belong to her daughter Lucia, dead for 15 years. But how can a stranger have the earrings of her dead daughter? What they are about to discover will forever change both lives. What city are you watching this video from and what time is it? By the way, if you're enjoying my videos, I'd be so happy if you could subscribe to my channel and like this video. The restaurant, the Golden Pearl, stood in the heart of New York City like a hidden jewel, where the city's elite gathered every night. The air was charged with refined aromas, Iberian acorn-fed ham, Krug champagne, and that unmistakable mix of power and money that only the most exclusive places know how to emanate. Waterford crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like fallen stars, reflecting golden lights on the white marble floors with gray veins. Isabella Rossi, 24 years old, moved between tables with that studied grace she had learned in her 5 years of service. Each of her gestures was calculated, each step silent on the low heels that never disturbed the customer's conversation. She wore the impeccable uniform, black blouse ironed to perfection, white skirt to the knee, brown hair gathered in a bun that never let a single strand escape. But it was her earrings that really captured attention. Antique gold handcrafted with small rubies that looked like drops of crystallized blood. They danced delicately with each movement of hers, reflecting the warm light of the restaurant. They were her only inheritance from grandmother Maria, the only valuable thing she possessed in a life made of sacrifices and postponed dreams. Grandmother Maria had died 5 years before, leaving her only those earrings in a tiny apartment in the West Village. She had told her to always wear them, that someday she would understand why they were special. Carmen Vázquez occupied table number 7, as every Thursday night for 3 years. 58 years carried with the elegance of someone born in luxury and never knew deprivation. Widow for 10 years, owner of 3 luxury hotels between New York, Miami, and Los Angeles. Her blonde hair was gathered in an aristocratic bun that permitted no imperfections. The Palomo Spain beige suit cost more than Isabella earned in 6 months, and the pearls around her neck had been inherited from her mother and her mother's mother. That November night, while the typical New York drizzle enveloped the city in a gray embrace, Isabella approached Carmen's table with the silver tray in perfect balance, the Rioja Reserva 2015 that Carmen always ordered. Served in the correct glass, at the correct temperature, was a routine that had been repeated for years, a silent ballet between waitress and client. But when Isabella leaned over to serve the wine, Carmen looked up from her mobile phone and the world stopped. Those earrings. Carmen's heart stopped beating for an infinite moment. She recognized them immediately, as if she had seen them yesterday instead of 15 years ago. She had chosen them personally at Tiffany on 5th Avenue. She had spent a fortune for her daughter's 16th birthday. She remembered every detail. The salesperson who had shown them to her on a black velvet tray, Lucia's smile when she put them on for the first time, the way they fit perfectly, the same earrings Lucia was wearing the night of the accident, the night that broke Carmen's life forever. The burgundy leather menu slipped from her manicured hands and fell to the floor with a dull sound that seemed to echo throughout the restaurant. Her voice came out like a broken whisper. "Those earrings belong to my daughter." Isabella looked at her confused, noticing how the color had disappeared from Carmen's face. Other customers started to turn, attracted by the unmistakable sound of human suffering. Carmen stood up so abruptly that the red velvet chair fell backwards. Her legs trembled, her blue eyes filled with tears she hadn't shed in years. She whispered her daughter's name like a prayer. "Lucia Vázquez. My daughter died on October 23, 2009. She was 16 years old." Isabella felt the silver tray slip from her hands. The world began to spin around her. Reality fragmented like the crystal that shattered on the marble floor. Her grandmother had never spoken of any Lucia, had never mentioned having worked for such a rich family. Carmen approached with faltering steps. She asked the girl what her grandmother's name was. When Isabella responded that it was Maria Benitez, Carmen brought both hands to her mouth, stifling a sob that had been waiting too long. "Maria worked for them," she said. "Lucia adored her more than she adored her." Carmen's office on the 20th floor of the Vázquez Imperial Hotel was much more than a simple workplace. It was a sanctuary of elegant pain, a private museum built around the memory of a girl who would never grow up. The walls were lined with solid mahogany that rose to the ceiling, and antique bookcases guarded leather-bound volumes that no one read anymore. But it was the east wall that told the true story of that room. An entire section dedicated completely to Lucia, photos framed in solid silver that showed every moment of her brief life. Lucia as a child blowing out the candles on her 3rd birthday, with blonde curls falling over her shoulders and blue eyes shining with that pure joy that only children know how to have. Lucia at 8 years old hugging Cinnamon, the golden retriever, who had been her most faithful playmate. Lucia as a teenager, smiling shyly at the camera, already beautiful like her mother, but with that sweetness that made her special. Isabella sat rigid on the edge of a cognac leather armchair, aged by time, still in her work uniform. The earrings now weighed on her like stones of guilt. Each reflection reminded her that she was wearing something that didn't belong to her, something that carried the weight of a tragedy she didn't understand. Carmen held in her hands a solid silver frame, her fingers caressing the glass, as if she could still touch her daughter's face. She told that this was Lucia on her 16th birthday. She had organized a party in the garden with all her friends. Lucia didn't want it. She said she was too old for birthday parties, but Carmen had insisted. She wanted to give her everything the world could offer. The photo showed Lucia radiant in front of a 3-tier cake surrounded by pink and gold balloons. On her neck shone exactly those earrings that Isabella wore. Now she explained she had bought them at Tiffany 3 weeks before. They cost more than $5,000, but seeing her daughter's happiness was priceless. Lucia had hugged her so tight that Carmen thought she would break her ribs. Carmen walked to the panoramic window that dominated New York City. The city spread below them like a sea of golden lights, Central Park shining like a green stain in the night. But Carmen only saw the past, only the memories that had tormented her for 15 years. She told that Maria had worked for her family for 20 years. She arrived when Lucia was barely 3 years old. Her husband Eduardo always traveled for work, and she was too young, too scared to be a mother. Maria became much more than a domestic employee. She became Lucia's second mother, perhaps the better of the two. Carmen's voice became sweeter, impregnated with nostalgia. Maria always knew what to say when Lucia had nightmares. She knew how to make her laugh when she was sad. She knew how to prepare those French toasts that only she ate. When Lucia started high school, it was Maria who helped her with literature homework, not Carmen. Carmen was always too busy with the hotels, with the business, with everything, except with her daughter. Isabella asked why her grandmother would have given her those earrings if they belonged to Lucia. Carmen turned slowly. Her blue eyes now shone with contained tears. She explained that when Lucia died, it was Maria who identified the body. Carmen couldn't even enter the funeral home. It was Maria who chose the dress for the funeral. It was she who combed her hair one last time. And it was she who told Carmen that the earrings weren't there. The room filled with a silence heavy as lead. Maria had said they must have fallen off in the accident, that they had lost them forever. They had searched everywhere, in the car wreckage, on the asphalt, even in the hospitals. But they never found them. Isabella suggested that maybe her grandmother had found them later, but Carmen shook her head. A tear ran down her cheek. She thought Maria knew something she didn't know, something about her daughter's death. Carmen's voice became a whisper loaded with fear. Maybe Lucia's death hadn't been the traffic accident everyone had believed, and maybe Maria was the only person who knew what had really happened that night. In Isabella's apartment, in the West Village, the two women searched through grandmother's memories. Isabella found a brown leather diary hidden at the bottom of a dusty box, under old photographs and letters yellowed by time. The diary's pages told a terrible story that neither of them had ever imagined. Are you enjoying this story? Leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Now let's continue with the video. Lucia had discovered the truth about her parents. She had found documents hidden in Carmen's office that revealed Eduardo Vázquez was not her biological father. She had discovered the secret Carmen had hidden for 16 years. The married man, the clandestine relationship, the pregnancy that changed everything. Maria's diary revealed that Lucia had become obsessed with the idea of finding her biological father. She had begged Maria to help her, but the woman had advised her to wait. to talk to Carmen first. But Lucia was stubborn like her mother and had decided that if Carmen wouldn't tell her the truth, she would discover it herself. The page from October 23, 2009, broke both women's hearts. Lucia had left home at 8 in the evening lying to her mother. She wasn't going to a friend's house to study. She was going to see Roberto Mendoza, senator, married man with 3 children, her true biological father. The diary's last page was the most devastating. Lucia had died with a broken heart, searching for a father who had rejected her before even meeting her. Maria had taken the earrings from Lucia's body before Carmen saw them, protecting the mother from an even more painful truth. Maria had written that someday she would give those earrings to the right person, to the person who would know how to honor the memory of a girl who died searching for the love that had been denied her. Carmen collapsed reading those words. Senator Mendoza, when he had discovered the pregnancy 16 years before, he had offered her money to disappear and never recognize the girl. Villa Mendoza stood in the hills of upstate New York like a gray stone castle, imposing and cold. Roberto Mendoza, 65 years old, waited for them at the door with his face marked by the fear of a confrontation postponed too long. In the living room full of paintings from the Golden Age and period furniture, the truth emerged like an open wound that had never stopped bleeding. Mendoza confessed that that night Lucia had arrived to him crying, imploring recognition and paternal love, but he had rejected her with a cruelty that had tormented him for 15 years. He had told her that her mother was a liar, that she had invented everything to blackmail him. He had thrown her out, terrified that his wife would discover the truth and that the scandal would ruin his political career. He told of having seen Lucia's heart break before his eyes, having heard her sobs while she ran to the car, having heard the sound of the wheels skidding on the asphalt while the girl escaped as if fleeing from hell. From a secret drawer, he extracted a yellowed envelope, sealed and never opened. Lucia had left it for him before leaving, but he had never had the courage to read it. Carmen opened the letter with trembling hands. Lucia's words spoke of forgiveness and understanding. She said she wasn't angry with her mother for having hidden the truth, and she had a last wish, that her earrings go to a girl who worked in a small restaurant, one who had the same sad eyes. The letter revealed the final mystery. Lucia had seen Isabella in the small restaurant where she worked before the Golden Pearl, and had recognized herself in that loneliness. She had asked Maria to take care of that girl if something happened to her. At the cemetery, in front of Maria Benitez's grave, the drizzle enveloped everything like an embrace. The headstone bore an inscription that now took on a completely new meaning: guardian of secrets, protector of innocent souls. Isabella found other pages of the diary hidden inside her grandmother's coat. The words revealed a plan orchestrated with surgical precision, woven with the love of a grandmother who had seen 2 broken souls and had decided to unite them. Maria had observed Isabella for years before Lucia's death, an orphan girl alone who worked to pay for her studies. She had seen in her the same loneliness that tormented Lucia, the same eyes that searched for love and belonging. The diary told how Maria had arranged for Isabella to be hired at the Golden Pearl, 3 years after her death. How she had orchestrated everything so Carmen would dine there every Thursday night. How she had prepared every detail for that encounter that would change everything. The diary's last page revealed the final truth. Maria had understood that Lucia's earrings should go to Isabella not only because she needed beauty in her life, but because she was the only person who could help Carmen heal from the pain that was slowly killing her. The plan was perfect in its simplicity. Lucia had died searching for a father's love. Isabella was alive searching for a family's love. Pain could transform into love if it found the right people. A final letter was addressed directly to Isabella. Maria explained she was the gift Lucia had left to her mother, and that Carmen was the family Lucia had left to her. Carmen cried for the first time in 15 years, hugging Isabella, 2 broken souls that were recomposing together, guided by the love of a grandmother who had seen beyond death. 2 years later, New York City had witnessed a transformation no one could have foreseen. The Vázquez Imperial Hotel, which before only resonated with the silent steps of Carmen's solitude, now pulsed with new life. On the 20th floor, The office, which had been a mausoleum of painful memories, had become the beating heart of something wonderful. Isabella Rossi Vázquez sat behind the mahogany desk as general manager. She wore a custom navy blue suit, her hair gathered in a professional bun that spoke of authority gained through sacrifice and dedication. On her neck always shone Lucia's earrings, but they were no longer symbols of pain. They had become amulets of hope, bridges between the past and the future. Carmen occupied the chair opposite, completely transformed. Her face, before marked by 15 years of inconsolable mourning, now radiated a light that seemed to come from within. Her blue eyes shone with that joy of living she had believed lost forever. Together they had created the Lucia Vázquez Foundation, which had grown beyond all expectations. It had offices in 3 cities, employed 60 people, and had already helped more than 200 young orphans find work and, above all, a family. One day, Roberto Mendoza presented himself in their office. He was a completely transformed man. His hair had turned completely white, his face thinner and marked by wrinkles that spoke of sleepless nights and deep remorse. But in his eyes there was a peace that had never been there before. He told of having divorced his wife, having confessed the truth to his children and to the press. He had lost everything: the villa, the political career, friends, respect. But for the first time in 20 years, he managed to sleep without dreaming of Lucia's crying face. He donated everything he had left to the foundation: 2 apartments in New York, some investments, the bank accounts he had managed to save. He wanted to honor Lucia after having rejected her in life. Then he asked Isabella if she wanted him to accompany her to the altar at her wedding with Alejandro. For the first time in her life, Isabella would have someone who looked at her with paternal pride while she walked toward her future. Carmen hugged them both, creating a circle of redemption that none of the 3 would have thought possible. The wedding was held in the garden of the Vázquez Imperial Hotel, transformed into an open-air cathedral. Isabella walked to the altar accompanied by Roberto, while Carmen was her godmother, very elegant in a champagne-colored dress. During the vows, Isabella kept touching the earrings, sharing that moment of perfect happiness with Lucia, who had made all this possible even after death. At Maria Benitez's grave appeared a small marble plaque. "Thank you for having known that love always finds the way home, even if it seems lost forever." At the final toast, Roberto stood up and said words that none of the guests ever forgot. Lucia had died at 16 years old searching for a father, but at 65 years old she had finally taught him how to become one. That night, under the stars of New York City, Isabella whispered a thank you to Lucia and to Grandmother Maria. Love is not measured by duration, but by intensity, and what they had shared would last forever. If this story has made you shed at least one tear, if you felt your heart shrink thinking about Isabella, who finally finds a family, then you must watch the next video, because the story doesn't end here. In the next episode, you'll discover what happens when Carmen receives a mysterious letter that will change everything again. A letter that comes from the past, and that reveals a secret that not even Grandmother Maria knew. Click on the next video now. Don't wait a second, because what you're about to discover will leave you speechless. And if you haven't already, subscribe and activate the bell, because every week we publish stories that will make you believe again in love, in destiny, and in the beauty of the human being. Like if you cried, share if you believe every object has a soul, and comment telling us what is the object that has the most meaning for you. The next video awaits you. Don't make it wait. Click now.